I'm 77 years old, and for 51 years, my old uniform sat folded in a box on the top shelf of my closet, behind the winter coats, behind things I actually used. I knew it was there the way you know there's a splinter still under the skin somewhere. Not always hurting, but never really gone either. The letter came on a Tuesday in April, cream-colored envelope, my name typed proper on the front, from some veterans association I'd never heard of, inviting me to a ceremony they were calling a welcome home. 51 years late, if you want to do the math on it. And believe me, I did the math more than once, standing there in my kitchen holding that letter like it might bite me. My first thought wasn't gratitude. It was anger, if I'm being honest with you. 51 years, and now somebody wants to throw a ceremony. I set that letter on the counter and didn't touch it again for 6 days. I didn't know yet that box in my closet was about to get opened for the first time since 1969. I grew up in a little coal town outside Scranton, Pennsylvania, the kind of place where everybody's daddy either worked the mines or worked for somebody who did. My father was a miner till his lungs gave out on him. I figured I'd end up down there too, one way or another, till the draft board decided otherwise. I came home from Vietnam in the fall of '69, and I want to tell you, nobody in that town spit on me the way you hear about happening in some places. It wasn't hatred what greeted me. It was worse in its own quiet way. It was nothing at all. My mother hugged me at the bus station. My father shook my hand once hard and said, "Good to have you back, son." And that was about the size of the welcome I got. I put my uniform in a box that first week home. Folded it myself. Careful, the way you'd fold something you weren't sure you were allowed to be proud of. I told myself I'd get it out again someday for something. A funeral maybe. My own, if it came to that, before anybody else's. 51 years is a long time to keep telling yourself, someday. 6 days, I let that letter sit on my kitchen counter before I finally picked it back up. My wife, Dorothy, God rest her, she'd passed 3 years before that letter ever showed up, and I remember standing there thinking how she was the one person who might have talked sense into me about it, one way or the other, and she wasn't there to do it. I read the letter maybe a dozen times. Some organization out of Harrisburg, veterans and volunteers, putting together what they called a welcome home ceremony for men like me, who never got one the first time around. Uniform optional, it said. Optional, like it was nothing at all to ask a man to put on a piece of cloth he hadn't touched since Nixon was president. I called my daughter, Susan, that evening, told her about the letter, waiting for her to tell me it was foolishness, waiting for permission to throw it away with a clear conscience. She didn't give me that permission. She went quiet on the phone for a second, and then she said, "Dad, I think you should go." Just like that. Simple as her mother used to be. I didn't answer her right away either. 51 years of practice, I guess, not answering right away. I climbed up into that closet on a Sunday afternoon, ladder creaking under me, the way everything in that house had started creaking, myself included. The box was right where I'd left it. Half a century of dust settled into the cardboard, and my hands weren't as steady as I would have liked when I pulled it down. I sat on the edge of the bed with that box in my lap a good long while before I opened it. Dorothy used to tease me gentle about that box up there. "What's in it, Walter? Buried treasure." She never pushed harder than that. She knew, same as I knew, that some things a man's got to open on his own time or not at all. The uniform was still folded the same way I'd left it, smelled like cedar and old cardboard, and something underneath that I couldn't put a name to right away. And then I could. It smelled like 1969, like a version of myself I hadn't stood face to face with in a long, long time. I lifted it out careful, like it might come apart in my hands. It didn't. Wool holds up better than a man does, I suppose. I held that jacket up in front of me in the mirror on the closet door, not putting it on yet, just holding it there, looking at the young man's shoulders. It was cut for, and wondering if mine would still fit inside it. There's a fella I served with, Raymond Kowalski, from up near Pittsburgh. We came up through training together, shipped out together, and we've stayed in touch on and off through the years. Mostly Christmas cards, same as most of us do. I called him that same Sunday evening, still holding the jacket, and told him about the letter. "You going?" he asked me, straight off, no hesitation in his voice at all. I told him I didn't know, told him it felt strange, celebrating something 51 years too late, like it was some kind of joke the world was playing on old men. Raymond went quiet a second, and then he said something I've turned over in my mind about 100 times since. "Walter, it ain't about the 51 years we lost. It's about not losing the years we got left, too." He'd gone to one of those ceremonies himself, 2 years before, out in Ohio somewhere. Said it was the first time in 50 years he'd cried in front of another living soul. I sat with that a long while after we hung up. I tried the jacket on 3 days before the ceremony, alone in my bedroom with the door shut, like a man sneaking a cigarette he knows he shouldn't be having. It fit different than I remembered, tighter across the shoulders, in a way that had nothing to do with weight gained and everything to do with 51 years of a body settling into itself, different than it was at 19. I stood in front of that mirror a long time. Didn't recognize myself, not right away. Not the gray in the hair, not the lines that hadn't been there the last time this particular jacket sat on these particular shoulders. But underneath all that, something in my own eyes looking back at me that I did recognize. Something that had been waiting a real long time to be looked at square, instead of shoved up on a shelf behind the winter coats. Susan came by that weekend to help me pick out what to wear, though I think really she just wanted to make sure I was actually going through with it. She saw the jacket laid out on the bed and got quiet the way her mother used to get quiet. "You look like the man in the photograph on the mantel," she said. I hadn't looked at that photograph straight on in years either. The ceremony was held in a community center gymnasium outside Harrisburg, folding chairs set up in rows, a little stage with a podium and an American flag that somebody had ironed the wrinkles out of special for the occasion. I almost didn't go in, sat in my truck in that parking lot a full 10 minutes, jacket on, hands on the wheel, telling myself I could still turn around. What got me out of that truck in the end wasn't courage, exactly. It was Raymond's voice in my head, saying it wasn't about the years we lost. Inside there were maybe 40 of us all around my age, some in full uniform like me, some just wearing a cap or a pin, all of us with that same look on our faces, like we weren't quite sure we belonged in the room, even though the whole room existed just for us. A young woman, couldn't have been more than 30, stood up at that podium and looked out at all of us and said, 51 years ago, our country failed to say 2 words to men who deserved to hear them the moment they came home. We're saying them now, as many times as it takes." And then everyone in that room, families, volunteers, strangers who'd never served a day in their lives, stood up together and said it. "Welcome home." I put my hand over my mouth like I could hold the sound in. I couldn't. 51 years came up out of me, right there in a folding chair in a gymnasium in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I didn't try to stop it anymore. I'm not ashamed to tell you I cried like a boy that day, 77 years old, uniform buttons pulling a little tight, surrounded by other old men doing exactly the same thing. There's a particular kind of relief that comes from finally putting down something you didn't even fully realize you'd been carrying for half a century. If there's somebody in your life who's still got a uniform in a box somewhere, a father, an uncle, a neighbor, I hope you'll gently ask them about it, and I hope you'll subscribe here and walk through these stories with me, because I think we owe it to men like Raymond, men like all 40 of us in that gymnasium, to make sure their stories get told before it's too late to tell them. Because here's what I learned that day, sitting in that folding chair. It's never too late to hear the words you needed, but don't wait 51 years like I did to let somebody say them to you. I wore that jacket home from Harrisburg, drove the whole way with it still on, radio off, windows cracked despite the chill, because for once, I didn't want anything filling up the quiet except my own thinking. And for the first time in a long while, my own thinking didn't feel like something to run from. I called Susan the minute I got home, told her everything, the gymnasium, the young woman at the podium, the sound of 40 old men and their families all saying the same 2 words together. She cried on the phone with me, 3 states away, and told me she wished her mother could have seen it. I told her, I think, in whatever way these things work, Dorothy did see it. I don't know if I believe that the way some folks believe things, but standing in my driveway afterward, jacket still on, evening coming down cool and easy, I let myself believe it anyway, just for a minute. The jacket doesn't live in that box anymore. It hangs in my closet now, out where I can see it, plain as anything else I own. Raymond and I talk more now than we have in years. Real conversations, not just Christmas cards. Turns out, there's a lot 2 old men can say to each other once they've finally said the hard thing first. I keep that jacket where I can see it these days, not because I need reminding of the war. I've never forgotten a day of that. I keep it out because I need reminding that it's not too late. Not for a welcome home, not for a hard conversation with your kids, not for whatever box you've got up on your own shelf. Whatever it is you've been telling yourself someday about for 51 years or 5. If you've got something like that in your closet, literal or otherwise, don't wait like I did. Tell somebody about it in the comments below. Or better yet, go tell the person it actually belongs to. I read every single comment, and I'd be honored to hear what you're carrying. And if you want to hear about the ceremony from Raymond's side of it, and what happened in that gymnasium 2 years before mine, I've got that story too, whenever you're ready for it.